UNRACK is a strength equipment company where we focus on precision engineered, manufactured equipment, particularly free weights.
So your product is actually made in India.
There's a huge amount of emotion about Make in India products, and for us it's very, very important that we can put India on the manufacturing map. We have everything in place to do that. And I was writing my thesis. People were like, "What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, you've done a PhD on stem cell biology and biomaterials. You have now you've just started working as a trainer." There was something in me that said, you just gotta go for it and create opportunities, because the next opportunity that came about was me working with Olympians. 100% I would like to see India host the 2036 Olympic Games.
Welcome to Ctrl.Alt.Thrive, where tech is more than a code. It's about people, purpose, and progress. I'm your host, Navneet. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're curious about sports science, women in fitness, or what it takes to go from research labs to Olympic podiums and now into startups, this episode is for you. My today's guest is Sahana Gopal, founder and CEO of UNRACK, made in India for the world, high-quality strength training equipment brand. In this episode, we are going to talk about building a fitness brand, science behind strength and performance, female athlete health, and her journey from academia to entrepreneurship. Hi Sahana, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be great.
And we have so much to talk. You have such an impressive career. You have completely unlocked new market data plus equipment innovation. Tell me, how did you come up with the concept and what's the story behind founding UNRACK?
Yeah, so UNRACK really started off as a very funny story. During COVID, I was building a home gym, as most people did. And I was struggling to get my hands on a piece of equipment. I was on the phone to my father and I was like, "Hey, I can't get a barbell, a women's barbell to train with, everything's out of stock." And he was like, "Oh, how hard can that be? I'll just make one for you."
Cool.
He's had about 40 years of experience in steel.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Well, you can go ahead and do that. I have no time to help you. I'm just going to give you a drawing."
Right.
And 2 years later, he had made a women's barbell, which I trained with. And I visited the factory and he had bought about 3,000 kilos of steel.
Amazing. So tell me more about UNRACK. Like, how would you describe it?
So UNRACK is a strength equipment company where we focus on precision engineered, manufactured equipment, particularly free weights.
Right.
We make our flagship product is a barbell. We make that for men, for women, for kids now as well.
Right.
And our whole brand vision is to get everyone to experience what strength training can do for them. Both physically and mentally. It's helped me a great deal in my own life. It's given me courage and resilience, and I want everyone to be able to feel like that.
And what gaps do you see currently in the fitness equipment industry or overall market?
So I think historically India has really kind of leaned on other countries for importing fitness equipment. So particularly when it comes to procuring high quality equipment that stands the test of time. We do have some amount of manufacturing that happens in the country, but we don't have the innovation that should surround it. India is a very price sensitive market.
Yes.
And essentially what we see is that a lot of people will cut corners in order to compete on price. So when they are developing gym equipment, essentially we would not be using high quality materials, or we would be doing processes that don't kind of complete and finish the products properly. And so there's a big gap in the sense that as we start to focus on quality and longevity of product, we need to be building things better.
So you also work with athletes. How does it feel like to working with high performance?
Yeah, so I have a background in strength and conditioning. So
Right.
I'm actually a strength and conditioning coach. Worked as a coach for about 8 years now in the high performance setting.
Right.
If you look at an elite athlete setup, particularly in the UK, we have a high performance center, and we have the people who work within that center. So the athlete and the coach are at the heart of everything we do. So
Right.
around the athlete and coach, you will have a strength and conditioning coach like myself. You would have a physiotherapist. You would have a nutritionist. You would have a psychologist, as well as a performance lifestyle specialist.
Right.
These people kind of understand in each of their lanes what it takes for an athlete to be successful. And we basically communicate across coach and athlete to make the whole program and system work.
Right.
When you're looking at high performance, especially on an elite level, the nature of what they do, the amount they train, their situations in terms of their school and how they manage that is very different to general population person.
Right.
Everything is about marginal gains. Everything is about how do you increase that 1%.
Right.
And so it's through my years of working in an Olympic sport for the last 8 years. It's really been about learning about how we can actually work together as a team in each of our lanes to then realize that potential for the athlete and help them achieve something at the Olympic stage.
Right. Yeah, that I absolutely love that. And also, like, you said you are strength and conditioning coach as well. Do you think, do you believe that strength training is for everyone? And why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's the reason why I have UNRACK. It's the reason I started the company. It's the sole goal is to get everyone to experience what strength training can do for them.
Right.
And that it just really goes beyond building muscles. Yes, of course, physical health is very important, but physical health just doesn't mean muscles.
Right.
It means your blood work, your bone health. It means so many things other than just aesthetics.
Right.
And I think strength training, we must do it for athletes because it helps you like get the athlete to a certain training level. The reason they're able to train 12 times a week is because they have that capacity in the muscles, in the joints, in the ligaments, and in their physiology to be able to cope with those training loads.
Right.
And for me, it's about how we get that to translate down to the person who goes to work every day, sits over a desk every day. How are we getting movement in? And strength training is one aspect of being able to address so many of the health concerns we see today, whether it comes down to osteoporosis in say menopausal women, to essentially getting young kids to be able to go on and play sports in school, and it is really across the board for everybody.
So, what do you think? What are the unique challenges female athletes face in training and recovery?
Yeah, so I think historically, female athletes have, through maybe just some kind of societal bias, have ended up underfueling and overtraining. If you look at how young girls grow up these days, their bodies go through an incredible amount of change, especially through puberty. We have more body fat, we develop breasts, we go through a lot of changes in our joints and ligaments. And we have to be able to address all those things from a very young age. But what happens is that because of the body changes that occur, young girls are now starting to eat less. And then they don't feel comfortable in the sporting field anymore. They don't want to go out and do their PE lesson. They don't want to they have to start wearing sports bras. They don't know how to go about doing that. They don't know whether it's important. And it's all these things that actually culminate even with young athletes, young female athletes who come on to world-class funding, who I've worked with. We just need to be able to have a much more detailed understanding of what they're going through, and then help them from that perspective.
Right.
So I think when you talk about challenges, it's about
Yeah.
really understanding the physiological changes that occur
Right.
in female athletes, and understand what is going on in their lifestyle and how they think about these things. And then of course, like when it becomes about performance, it's a lot to do with injury and being able to educate in the realms of nutrition,
Right.
but then also what real recovery means.
Right.
Because ultimately with an athlete, they're going to be training way more than anyone else. So those fueling demands are way higher than the regular person.
Right.
But of course, the recovery demands are also very substantial. So it's about really understanding the full picture of their
Right.
entire day, their entire week, their entire month.
Right.
How impact of school and then impact of lifestyle can play a role on how they think about fueling and recovery.
Right.
And then basically being able to address specific concerns that they have. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of young girls, they may think that they're not supposed to eat this, they're not supposed to eat that, and something as simple as, oh my God, like you're putting on body fat, like
Yeah.
please don't eat that muffin. Whereas from my perspective, it's like if an athlete shows up to my S&C session and they've already had a considerably hard week,
Right.
and they stop themselves from eating something before they come into training,
Right.
for me that's a red flag. And I'm like absolutely okay with them taking 10 minutes out to eat a piece of
Yeah.
dried fruit to get some energy and then come back in.
Yeah.
So it's very important to develop a rapport with especially young female athletes, so that they can understand, what their bodies need. Because, typically when you start menstrual cycle, you have a lot of hormones which are coming up and down. And then I think, young women need to understand how that impacts
Right.
their training and recovery as well. Because ultimately the body is all in competition for resources. Training is a stress.
Right.
Building hormones is a stress. So how are we able to address that and just address the fuel needs appropriately?
Yeah, and there are also a lot of fitness trends, right? How do you decide okay, if someone's, I think you and I had chat about this, that if I'm just doing Pilates, then I'm doing, HIT, which is super intense, and it's just like a trend. I'm like, yeah, now there is a high rocks, right? For example, someone like me, I work out 6 days in a week. So how do I make my schedule that I cover strength training? I also do running, either could be walk or run. And third could also be enjoy something which I really like for a lean muscle, like Pilates and stretching and mobility and all of that. So I'm kind of really lost and confused right now, because I'm all over the place and I keep pushing myself. And some weeks I do train for 2 days in a week, and then next week I'm putting so much pressure on myself to do 6 days in a week. So there's no actually balance as such, right?
Yeah, that's it's a great point. I think we've seen a huge rise in generally in women's health and fitness. Women are showing up to the gym, they're showing up to do high rocks, they're showing up to do all the things. And that's great, because at the start, movement is number one.
Right.
How you get that in does not really matter. Your body
Right.
has a great capacity and tolerance for the first time you start moving.
Right.
Especially if you consistently show up. So consistency forms the base of everything.
Right.
So when you say, hey, I did 6 days a week and I did nothing, and then I did 6 days a week again. So that's where we need to start thinking about, okay, does that qualify as consistency, and what does it
Right.
actually mean to be consistent?
Right.
So if you're someone who is just starting out, rather than getting overwhelmed by the number of different types of workouts you could do,
Right.
doing something is at the base. You can only do something consistently if you show up to it repeatedly, right?
Right.
So, for example, if you want to try something, ideally you would start it by doing it once or maximum twice a week.
Right.
And then you slowly build it up over weeks.
Yeah.
And up until the point where I think people start moving, and then they forget what journey they're in, and they
Right.
consume information from outside. So, for example, if I've started going to the gym and I, say I'm doing high rocks training, my entire Instagram, YouTube, everything, everyone's talking about it, and I'm then starting to do high rocks 6 days type training 6 days a week. So when you come in as a strength and conditioning coach, okay, we are trying to always manage load and manage capacity to train.
Right.
So what you would need is then, okay, I need to change it up a little bit. And by change it up, I don't mean stop doing something and start doing another thing.
Right.
I mean, look at a gradual progression of number of training sessions per week
Right.
that you can build up to.
Yeah.
And then start to introduce things that actually improve muscle tolerance to doing your high rocks.
Right.
So at the base of it, how large your tank is defined by the strength and conditioning you do. So we are trying to build a good base of physical capabilities, of muscles, of bones, of ligaments, of tendons,
Right.
to then help you do the high rocks better. Because the larger your tank of training is, the more you can actually train high rocks.
Yeah.
So for instance, if someone is doing Pilates and they want to do 5 days of Pilates, you actually typically need to also have some conditioning work and strength work to be able to do that. If
Right.
Pilates is your sport, if
Right.
football is your sport, we do strength and conditioning. So
Right.
it's anything that you enjoy doing in order to be able to continue doing that without injury risk, without going into a what we call a relative energy deficiency state, like a low energy state, which women have, like there's a lot more women than men who experience that. We need to be doing some good amount of strength and conditioning, but then also fuel appropriately to be able to do that.
Right.
So I think the time is, at that intermediate stage for a woman where she's like, got a good amount of consistency of training, say 3 to 4 times a week.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now let me understand, like, what am I doing per week? Am I fueling enough? Am I training the right things in order
Right.
to be able to improve whatever my goal is?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to product now. So your product is actually made in India and you're selling into global market. How difficult is it for you to do a brand positioning in terms of quality and the price?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I came into manufacturing like recently,
Right.
and for me, I had to do, of course, a lot of research on what is around in the market, how people see fitness brands, fitness equipment brands particularly, and what they are currently willing to pay, as
Right.
well as what they consider as premium. So you have a lot of brands who say import from China, they white label a lot of the products, and they're priced a little bit higher than what you would particularly buy that it was made in India.
Right.
So this was kind of interesting for me because at UNRACK we essentially use materials that no one else in India really uses to say make barbells. Potentially also the way we treat steel, no one else in the country does. We're absolutely hard chrome plating free company, so we focus a lot on the sustainability aspect as well.
Right.
In terms of the longevity of product. So essentially everything we sell is pretty much rust proof, and I'm actually afraid to know how rust proof it is.
Right.
So when I positioned the brand, it's of course a premium brand, but
Right.
it takes a lot to educate the Indian audience that what they are experiencing right now
Right.
is not of actually high quality.
Yeah.
You have a lot of international brands that have come in very small pockets,
Right.
but who are probably around 50% more expensive than the current players in the Indian market. And of course, we are probably around 60% cheaper than them. So we're sitting kind of in between what is considered premium in the Indian market
Right.
and about, and the other international brands that are present.
Right.
So I think when it comes to quality, people are still trying to figure it out. They
Right.
are surprised that we make in India, but they're also surprised that we are priced where we are.
Right.
And that's a hard one to grapple with because there's a huge amount of emotion about Make in India products. And for us,
Right.
it's very, very important that we can put India on the manufacturing map. We have everything in place to do that.
Right.
We have innovation, and we borrow a lot of technology from the automobile and aerospace sectors when it comes to innovation on the products, the way we do processes, the way we procure steel and things like that.
Right.
But essentially what we want to be able to do is say, hey, this is something that you should invest in, because you're not going to be changing products every few years.
Right.
We actually think about workers' health and safety when it comes to the processes that we're applying to these products. And we want it to last you a long time, because we believe that we're part of the journey of strength training. We're not just equipment sellers. So we actually, in a sense, don't want you to come back to us unless you're buying more products.
Right.
We want you, this bar should be able to grow with you as your strength journey develops, because it can take that much load, it can take that much humidity, that can take so many different aspects of the environment, in the Indian environment, in the gym setting.
Right.
So that's really what we're trying to build in a nutshell. And of course, it may take longer, but that's the way it's going to be. And I have full faith that we're doing the right things, and hopefully it will take off.
100%. I think you will be in the Olympics soon. Like, honestly, yes. Okay, also help me understand, or anyone who's new to this equipment innovation, how do you differentiate between your barbell and the ordinary barbell which is available in the market?
So that really comes down to our steel selection.
Right.
So we use a specific type of aviation grade stainless steel, which basically means that it's used partly in some aircraft components, and this stainless steel, it's got a high amount of essentially an element that prevents the rust from forming on it.
Right.
The other aspect is that we actually really take care of how we make the grips on the bar. So firstly, we have different sizes of bars. So proportions of men and women are different. We don't just shrink it and pink it. We actually think about, okay, our Olympic weightlifters who are women, they lift on a women's bar. So we have those specs in place, which kind of meet international standards.
Right.
But then also when we form the grip on the bar, we actually knurl the bar and create the grips on the bars ourselves. And this is something like it's a kind of touch point between our customer and between how we manufacture. So it's very, very important that the customer feels good when they grip the bar for a clean, for a snatch, for a deadlift. It's a very specific type of knurl, which is called a volcano knurl, where there's literally a crater formed within the grip, so your hand surface area is much more, and it sinks into the bar, so you have an amazing grip. And stainless steel, we don't plate it because it's actually naturally rust proof. It's super strong, so it can take 800 kilos, no problem. And we've actually tested those things. Like, my heart was in my mouth when we actually hung 800 kilos off this bar.
Right.
And for me, it's about then we start to grow our product spec with the realization that the strength training is for everyone.
Right.
So now we make bars for kids. We make 5 kg bars. We make 10 kg bars. We make bars for women. We make bars for men. And it's an entire spectrum, because my core belief is that everyone should be able to feel like the way I did when I lifted on a bar first.
Right. Tell me, how is the bar different for women or men?
Yeah.
What is the science or data behind your product in that innovation?
Yeah, and this is something, we've just copied from international specification. I have to be very honest here.
Right.
People have done some amount of research when women were allowed to do Olympic weightlifting on an Olympic stage. We saw a barbell that was created for women, which is basically a 25 diameter grip size versus a 28 millimeter diameter for a men's barbell size.
Right.
Now that 3 difference actually makes a huge, you can add maybe 10 to 15 kilos more on the bar when you're getting under a clean, when you're getting under a jerk, when you're getting under a snatch.
Right.
So, and the proportions of the bar are a little bit different. So the sleeves are a little bit shorter, because as women, our frames are a little bit smaller. Our wrists are thinner, and then our hands are a little bit smaller.
Right.
So proportion-wise, it actually makes a big difference in terms of when you have weights at the end put on the sleeves of the barbell.
Right.
And this is something that is used by the top weightlifters. So they're sending 185 kilos over their head with the female specific bar. which is very interesting because you go to a regular gym, nearby a commercial gym, and you will never really find a women's barbell, or no one knows that it
Nobody
exists.
knows. Like, we've been doing with the same thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, looks like it. This product is new, and which also needs a lot of education, right? Because not many people know that the gym equipment has some data behind it, and we've been doing the same thing for so many years. And I'm sure it hasn't been easy for you as well to really crack into markets like India, which is, you mentioned, it's very price sensitive. And also not very user awareness is there still, because I think we're still catching up on the fitness trends, which is great because people are aware of it now. But when we look at your monetization sweet spot in India, how does that work for you? Like, is it for B2B?
Yeah, so when we first started off, so I have a small background in product management.
Yeah.
So worked in tech mostly, but that really taught me.
The Wild AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's actually how I know you.
Yeah. That's
when I
how,
did-
because Navneet, Devi, she reached out when.
So I know you from Wild AI,
Yes.
and I started following
And
you
you-
on Instagram.
Correct.
And I was like, okay, this is Indian girl, because I did podcast with Helen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Devi was like, oh, she's already done a podcast.
Yeah,
with Helen.
and
I was like, well, I left Wild and I have some other stuff to talk
She
to her
told-
about. So,
Yeah, so it was so great. I'm just like, and I've been following you since then.
Oh, right.
We didn't
okay.
know each other.
No, we didn't. No,
Yeah,
no,
but I
no.
kind of stalked you on Instagram, like, oh, she's doing cool stuff.
Yeah, I think you should add these bits because it's quite nice.
Because like that's how I actually know you.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, this Indian girl, I should connect with her.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, she's lifting weights, like which I personally love.
Yeah.
And then I was so impressed by, of course, by your Instagram videos first, and then when I stalked you a bit, I'm like, okay, what is this UNRACK?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, she's literally building completely new category, which is male dominated. Steel business is not actually run by
Exactly.
manufacturing, it's male dominated. Plus you're combining science, data, and of course your own experience, from your academic experience and research, and combining everything. I think this is super impressive. I was just like, wow, I need to know what is she's up to.
Yeah, queen of pivot. I told you, queen of pivot.
You are actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So I'm also like, what the hell have I done?
No, it's so
like,
great.
Like
Like,
if
I
you
don't
need to know how to
even-
jump ship, you come to me.
Pivot is the best thing you can do, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you don't pivot, you actually are stuck at the same space,
And
you
there's a
don't
lot of
know how-
stagnation often. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying, you don't finish what you started.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about, okay, like looking at the opportunity at hand and saying, yeah, this is the right time to go for it. And it's
Yeah.
okay to go for it.
Right.
Like a lot of people will just stay away from that, being,
Right.
again, risk averse and not being able to like kind of just make the leap. Because I remember this one time when I was finishing my PhD.
Right.
So I busted my ACL, I tore it playing badminton just before my PhD started.
Right.
And that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of, strength training for athletes, S&C, a little bit of physiotherapy, rehab, all this kind of stuff. And my research brain was working in two different directions.
Right.
But I had the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
And at the end of my PhD, I was like, I need to make some money and my funding is running out. So I'm just going
Right.
to start doing some personal training and work with my lab colleagues, a couple of university athletes, and just started there. But, at that point when I started doing all this training stuff and I was writing my thesis, people were like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, you've done a PhD on stem cell biology and biomaterials. You have now you've just started working as a trainer. What does it mean?
Yeah, that's a mindset. Yes, like
like
you consider as your personal trainer.
Yeah, you're a personal trainer, so you did a PhD to become a personal trainer. And
yeah.
no offense to personal trainers, but even when I became a strength and conditioning coach, yes, of course, I missed the lab, but in a way which was like more in the application sense of like doing the kind of ground research and figuring it out rather than actual experimentation and like pipetting and taking care of pets I never wanted in the lab.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was that, but there was something in me that said, you just gotta go for it and create opportunities, because the next opportunity that came about was me working with Olympians.
Right.
So that was just ridiculous for me, because I was like, there was something inside saying, no, you can go ahead and do this, and then you'll figure it out.
Right.
And making that decision and not doing a postdoc and going into a research hole, and that is for some people for sure. They know they want to become professors, postdocs, etc. But for me, it was like, no, I love working with people, and I want to be able to explore that. And essentially, working with Wild was my scientist saying, hey, do you need a scientist a couple of days a week? I'd be happy to come in and start looking at this research side of like female athlete performance and physiology.
Right.
Let's kind of work together to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, that's so great because you bring that experience from working in female health as well, which is not many people actually, trainers have no idea in India. I mean, let me be honest, like, they don't understand your menstrual health. They just put you into some stupid diet of going zero carbs, and all of a sudden to normal human, they just want you to perform like athlete and act like athlete. That's not possible, right? Because our body works in very different way, and I think there's a huge education gap overall. And that's how I started cycle syncing, of course. I was using Wild AI, and I was like, wow, this is so great. Like some app and algorithms just telling me what I need to do in my menstruation cycles, right? Like my different phases.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up, because I think the last decade or so has essentially the research has kind of erupted, but alongside the research, I think the social media has also erupted, and you have a big education gap. So when that happens, this translation of white paper research to kind of popular science, social media, like a lot of influencers jumping on the whole cycle syncing, I'll give you this program. It's actually quite dangerous, to be honest. So what we're seeing, maybe, yes, of course, 6% of all sports science research is done specifically in women, looking at menstruating women, but also birth control, but also menopause, everything. We have very little of that. Within that, the research quality is quite poor. And then when you try to extrapolate from that, you don't really have much evidence-based recommendations. And this is where it's dangerous, because influencers who have large reaches are now taking just some basic information saying, hey, it's going to wreak havoc on your hormones if you do any high intensity during your second half of the menstrual cycle. That is very dangerous messaging, because then we're saying, don't move. Sit on the couch because you're going to get your period. Sit on the couch because you're on your period. And that, for me, is like a huge red flag, because ultimately women are not understanding that where this research was done. Was it done on a rodent? Was it done on a menopausal woman? Was it done on someone with birth control? Or, was it even done? We don't know that. We're just relying on some influencer saying these things. So it's really important to take a very I always believe in looking at yourself and your own situation before we consume. And it's very difficult not to consume in this day and age, because you think that everything that is out there is meant for you. And it goes back to the whole state of like saying, hey, no, we need to understand, how many days are you training a week? Are you training, are you fueling for your training? Are you sleeping right? Are you hydrating right? Then we're like, okay, fine, if all these things are in place, let's then look at your cycle, and then, how we can make some adjustments based on you individually. That's where actually the whole cycle stuff comes in my opinion. And I think it's actually, we just need to change how we view this whole menstrual cycle syncing thing, because I really believe women have lived experiences. We should not take away from that. But then it's actually about them going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, what do I do? Where is my journal of training and health and performance? Before I start listening to anyone else. Because the last thing you want to be telling women, do not lift a weight just before your period. You will anyway auto-regulate. If you feel like you don't feel good, you're not gonna do that.
Right.
You're not gonna go and push yourself when you're not feeling good. So auto-regulation is the best way to go with it, but auto-regulation is based off your own journal of training.
Right. Yeah. So, of course, like the fitness is such a big market in India right now, because we can see that compared to 5 years back, I would hardly see women lifting weights. And now, which this is so good because every woman they are doing strength training. So tell me, what are the fitness trends are you most excited about?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, because I think when you look at gyms nowadays,
Right.
You see a lot of women in the weight section of the gyms and not just on the treadmills,
Right.
which is like an incredible sight. I think women naturally are just gravitating more towards that because there's some good information from, that's passed on. Maybe we have more role models of women in strength training,
Right.
in weightlifting, in powerlifting, that we've seen that women are now, earlier they adopt strength training more easily,
Right.
which is absolutely excellent. Of course, it still has a long way to go.
Right.
And I think, of course, there are other trends that are very relevant to this day, and women particularly enjoy the Pilates. They enjoy, kind of like high intensity interval training.
Right.
A lot of more women are feeling more comfortable to go out for a run even. And of course, you have large communities for playing kind of sports. So whether that's football and basketball and things like that.
Right.
So it's all kind of evolving in an incredible way.
Right.
And I think where we may need to see improvement is essentially how women think about what they're doing in the gym. So we need to look more granular now, because before the conversation was really about, hey, you're going to get bulky if you do any strength training,
Yeah.
right? But now the conversation is about, okay, I'm in the gym,
Right.
but then I want to tone up.
Right.
Right? And this whole toning thing, like as a word, is a completely made up concept for women, because it avoids the idea that they will get bulky.
Right.
So women typically are doing very high repetitions.
Right.
And then that very high repetitions, and like say, I'm saying on the scale of like more than 15 to 20 repetitions for a certain exercise at a pretty low weight,
Right.
still gives the idea that they're going to tone up and not get big.
Right.
Whereas really, if you look at the actual research,
Right.
that's just not the case. We don't really have this spectrum of what's going to make us bulky versus what's going to make us tone, because tone is a
Right.
made-up concept.
Right.
So what we're trying to get women to understand is that intensity is the thing that governs everything. So whether you do 15 reps and you're kind of really struggling, or you do 6 reps and you're really struggling,
Right.
intensity is what will govern whether you put on lean mass.
Right.
And lean mass, whether that's bulk or whether that's tone, whatever you want to call it, it is lean mass. So that's
Right.
all we're trying to achieve.
Right.
Right?
But also, like, I feel a lot of people now work out because of other factors from mental health or productivity or more focus. It's not about I just want to look good, and like it's more of I want to feel good, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
that is the factor.
Totally.
Right.
And this is where I think we've not got the enjoyment that you can derive from true strength training.
Right.
So when I'm saying strength training, it's like the highest force your muscle can produce in, like, say, 5 repetitions of a squat, like quite heavy loads, right? And I don't think women have actually derived that enjoyment from that. Like, I can push that heavy weight.
Yeah.
And it's not that they have to do it, but working with a certain amount of intensity and not being fearful of some amount of intensity, whether it's low weight, high reps, or high weight, low reps,
Right.
is not enjoyed as yet. And that's because with the higher reps stages, you struggle with recovery. And a lot of like feel good in the body is to do with recovery. You will
Right.
only feel good after strength training if you recover right. And
Right.
the amount of fatigue that happens when you do a lot of heavy reps
Right.
and heavy volume is very hard to recover from, because naturally women gravitate towards less food. They don't, as in they don't gravitate towards food. They
Right.
don't look at food as fuel.
Right.
We're not reaching for enough protein,
Right.
typically, across the day, or after workout, or even on the rest days. They don't know that they need to be eating protein across the entire week in order
Right.
to recover from high volume sessions, which they are now typically doing. So
Right.
as a trend, I think we need to start moving in the other direction, because the amount of recovery you need from heavyweight, low rep strength training is actually a little bit lower.
Right.
And you're able to then go and do your Pilates the next day. You're
Right.
able to then go and do your run or do your badminton or whatever sport you're playing.
Right.
So it's something that we need to consider
Yeah.
when we're programming, your sessions across the week.
Right.
Where does that strength actually fit in, and how do
Right.
we recover from it?
Yeah, no, that's great. And what's your vision for UNRACK empowering women in fitness, health overall?
Yeah, so I would say, I'll be honest, like we obviously started selling to athletes, and athletes was like my major segment, and of course
Right.
both male and female athletes. I would say it's 90% male athletes.
Okay.
And that's just because women's sport is still coming up, and we have a lot of work to do there. But I would say every time there's a sale from someone who is just setting up a home gym, it's for me that experience of like the thinking that they can feel
Yeah.
how I felt when I was doing my first strength training session. So we've had a
Right.
lot of like women buy just sets for their homes
Right.
because they feel more comfortable training out of their homes, and they've got
Right.
the space to do it.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I want a women's specific barbell. Our plates are designed a little bit thinner, so there's easy grip.
Right.
Our racks are not kind of monstrous looking things. They're quite low footprint. So
Right.
it's like getting them to like believe in my vision as well, because they've started to
Right.
lift, and that journey is what I went through, and now they're getting on the journey. That's something for me that is like hugely satisfying as a founder, and
Right.
someone who builds a kit that I can put that into their hands, and they can
Right.
enjoy the same feelings that I did.
Yeah. And how would you divide the business model? Like, is it like more of B2B now, or you're also going direct to consumers?
Yeah, and this comes down to the kind of like the segmentation that I learned from my product management background. So understanding, where are the different segments when it comes to gym equipment, who are the key people you need to convince.
Right.
And for me, the easiest kind of lowest education, smallest hurdle was really elite sport. So they are people who are willing to invest in quality, because I know that
Right.
they purchase international brands who are priced at a higher point. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm just going to go. I speak the language of elite sport because I've lived in
Exactly.
that kind of environment
Yeah.
for the last 8 years.
It becomes easier.
And
for
it
you-
becomes easier to
Yeah.
talk to another fellow strength coach, because they are the ones who are really convincing,
Of course.
the procurement team to put this stuff in the gym, and they
Right.
value the quality.
Right.
So really, we've sold to cricket teams and associations, as well as now we've recently partnered with the Pro Kabaddi League Haryana Steelers team as well, where we're putting up a whole performance center in Rohtak for their kids to, the younger athletes on pathway going
Right.
all the way up to performance.
Right.
We're doing up their whole center. As well. So they really kind of like to invest in the high performance dream,
Right.
which is lovely to see. But of course, that has its own challenges, many,
Right.
many people to go through.
Yeah.
And organically, I think we've kind of started to leverage some of that clout and look at how, again, home gym buyers have just come up to us quite organically and have said, hey,
Yeah.
I want this stuff for my home, because typically gyms don't have the they typically don't have the amount to spend on this, because I believe that gym memberships are too low, and that's why equipment quality is also not where it should be.
Right.
But I think with time, people will start to small personal training studios and things have started to invest in what we build.
Right.
So that's really lovely to see.
Yeah. So you're absolutely building in $1 billion category. You're bootstrapped, right?
We are bootstrapped, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. How is it to like, you don't want to get investors, or you just want to build like on your own terms?
I think that's a great question, and it will evolve with the vision, because for me it's about, yes, I am building equipment, but I am
Right.
also still a coach. And
Right.
when I think about my own experience of being a strength and conditioning coach,
Right.
I really thrive in that like athlete environment, like getting
Right.
athlete buy-in, getting people to learn how to do their lifts properly. We do a lot of
Right.
workshops in Olympic weightlifting, and we train coaches on how to use it for sports performance.
Right.
And I think, you know, that vision and how a high performance room operates, I do see an element of technology fitting into this product.
Right.
I can't really say what yet,
Yeah.
but the whole experience of coaching coming into a hardware product is something I'm very, very bullish
So
on.
you're really invested on everything as of now.
I
You
think
want to
it's
go
the
slow and
experience.
build right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm when it comes to that like experience of coaching within the hardware product,
Right.
I think we will definitely look at how we need to invest, how we need investors on board.
Amazing. Great. What would success look like for you? Is it like training Olympic athletes, like more medals, lifting, or more business scaling into this space?
Yeah, I kind of run between like a headless chicken between all those things. I have to be honest. But
Yeah.
we're very young at the moment. And what I would say is, yes, 100%, I would like to see India host the 2036 Olympic Games. I would love to see UNRACK be on the Olympic stage when it comes to
Amazing.
the weightlifting competitions, as well as the training zones for the strength and conditioning.
Right.
But then also have it, you know, across the board, helping, you know, grassroots sports and young kids kind of develop their love for, you know, this kind of strength training and lifting. I see, you know, a lot of young girls, if I could get them to get on this bandwagon of like
Absolutely.
what it could do for them and build that kind of resilience and courage and all the things that come with weightlifting in them, then that for me is like success.
Amazing. And we have a quick rapid fire. What does strength mean to you beyond weightlifting?
It means courage, it means resilience, it means love for yourself, and it means you can achieve anything you've ever wanted.
Amazing. Um, do you squats or deadlift?
Squat.
Great. If Anurag was a person, how would you describe it in personality?
Fierce, but not intimidating.
Okay.
Strong,
Yeah.
but not overpowering.
Amazing. And what's the Olympic memory you have with athletes?
I think it's being able to get them to compete at the Olympics in the best of their health.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sahana. It was so lovely to have you with
Thank you
us.
so much, Navneet.
Thank you.